actually understand as the Old Testament gospel of the createdness of humanity and its perfection to the fall, to the restoration, typified through the ark itself, which is allegorically, if you would, or typologically the person of Jesus Christ. But as we heard last Sunday, belief in the historic God of Christendom is waning. It's under 50%. It's actually decreasing every month as the reporting is coming in. So Michelangelo's picture of an old man with a white beard surrounded by a bunch of chubby angels is more of a fairy tale than reality. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you picked up some note paper today, or if you have something to write on, I want you to get that out with a pen, and I want you to be good students of a video that I'm going to play. I want you to note some of the things that are being said, all right? And then we're going to flow into our first phrase today. So if you have a pen, pencil, if you have something to write on, I want you to watch this next video. Forget the nomenclature. It's titled wrong for some reason. I don't know why, but it's a really great video. So watch, take note, observe, and we'll come back. If I can move it. Whoops. Is it going to be stuck because I moved too quick, guys?
I believe in a higher being or supernatural being. I'm not too sure if that is God or a particular God, or if we all share the same God, because I take views on board from a number of different religions.
No, I don't really believe in God. I don't necessarily believe in a higher power either. I don't know, my life functions quite well without the belief of that, so.
I believe that there is something there. I don't know exactly what, but there are things that can't be explained by normal human behavior without a God. But whether it's God or Buddha or whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in is up to you, really.
Well, I believe in God. I just haven't found any churches that I agree with.
I do believe in God. I believe that He is our creator.
I cannot say that I believe in God, but also that I don't. I think I'm more of a scientific person. I need to see something to believe it, but I don't know. I don't believe in the church, let's say it that way. If I believe in God, yes or no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't really believe in God. I think I'm more like a science person, like I'm more in the science than in God. I'm more like agnostic. Maybe there's something I don't really know, and apparently I don't really care. It's like I live my life, and as long as I have a good life, it's okay. I'm happy like that.
I'm agnostic, so I'm not sure really if he exists or not, because while there's evidence for God, there's also evidence against. Maybe not evidence, so to speak, but theories, and both theories have equally good points, and it leads me to a confusion.
I do believe in God, just for the simple fact in the Bible it shows how things is coming to pass that he predicted like years before, and it shows then, it's just like the air. We feel the air, we get cold, but we don't see it, just like God, we know He's around, but we don't see it, It's cold right now, you feel the breeze, you can do that. You know what I'm saying? And he's there, just like the wind. So that's the main reason I do believe in God. And I got a lot of prayers answered, you know what I'm saying? So that I prayed for. So I know He's real.
I believe in God because the earth is a miraculous place. And I don't think that evolution can explain it all. And that our souls are meant to move on after our bodies have withered.
I do believe in the existence of God. I think anytime that two people come together and create a new life form, that's confirmation that God does exist, and it's a miracle anytime a heart begins to beat, or just the fact that there's love in the world.
And there's our key question this morning. Do you believe in God? Why or why not? That's what we want to try to address this morning as we kind of review some things. This morning we're going to do the first part of the Apostles' Creed and make some observations about it. So I want us to just, there we go. I want us to just look at it. I want you to see that I've sort of color-coded it. I study this way. It points things out to me. It brings emphasis to things that I think. It sticks in my mind a little bit better. I'm color-oriented. And so I hope you don't mind I did this so that you can see it as well. So let's read through the creed, and then I'm going to go back and just take actually the first four, well, actually the whole thing this morning. So let's read, shall we, together? We believe in God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. There's our creed. The first thing is we believe, and we believe in something. Everyone does. We believe in God. I want to take you to a New Testament passage that we read because I want us to see another word for that word believe that might help us in that process. And this is back in Hebrews 11 and 6. And the words that we highlighted are the ones that I want you to see. So I'll read, you grab the yellow, and we'll put these together. So, and without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must, church, believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So a biblical synonym, another word for believe or belief, is the word faith. But I want to unpack that for understanding, because those who will argue against your faith or your belief will often call it blind faith. In other words, you're just believing to believe, but you don't know why you believe, and you don't know if it'll hold up under any testing. And I'm here to tell you that that's just absolutely not true. Karl Marx, the great socialist, and socialism always heads into communism. It is an anti-God system, said that religion, that is faith in God or a supernatural being of any kind, is the opiate, the drug of the people, a human construct that helps them get through uncertainty in the universe and in ever-conflicting society. In other words, it's just a made-up, unsubstantiated belief in a higher power or a person for the sake of dealing with life. It is a fabricated life crutch. And Karl Marx said, if you need it, that's fine, as long as you understand that there's no reality in it. It's just made up. That's all it is. But faith or belief comes in three forms. They are all ascending, by the way, and all three pertain to being a follower of Jesus, the last being the most important. And I'm going to connect to this faith definition to the fuller phrase, we believe in God. Now, if you took notes during that video, you're going to hear some of these sort of faith or non-faith statements as I sort of move through them. So the first one is this: faith or belief is connected to what we call data or information. It's what's known as intellectual awareness. Intellectual awareness. Everyone fits this category, by the way. If I'm teaching systematic theology, which is what I'm putting together at present, a Know Your Theological Grid class, which is why my eco book with all of the confessions are home at present. When we get into a deeper dive on the belief of God, we're going to unpack this even further, so I hope that you jump into that. But everyone is in this category. It says, I'm aware that there is complexity in the world, that there is design in the world, that there are governing laws of physics and mathematics. I'm aware that there are specific biological descriptions and functions that the world adheres to. And by the way, I don't know if you know that, but that is presently under attack. whether someone is male or female, that used to be a pretty simple answer, didn't it? Nowadays, there's like 66 choices. Well, I've got news for you. God only created binary humans. You're either male or female. The problem is not with your gender, it's with your mind. And all God's people said, please. It has to do with your brain. It does not have to do with your genitals. All right? It is an intellectual awareness that the world is created a certain way, and the world in itself tries to tear that down and break that down. That's why I brought that category up, because it is not a benign issue. It is an attack on the very foundational principles of Genesis chapter 1, when God says, let us create them in our image. Let us create them male and female, not 66 other choices. All right? This is an attack on the scriptures. It's an attack on the plan of God. We'll get there. But I want you to see that up front, that the arguments that we are going to be talking about, the statements of faith that we have, they have present day implications for how we have conversations out in our world. There is truth. There is right. There is wrong. The scriptures hold forth certain principles universally that cannot be denied, but society at present is tearing those things apart. We have to have an answer to those, and I digressed a little bit, but my point is there is an intellectual awareness that is out there, that there is something that has put this thing together, if I could sort of use it that way. Even atheists have to admit these things, but the awareness does not always lead to the same conclusion of origins, and that's where the problem happens. So when we stand together and we begin the creed and we say, we believe in God, we have just given them an answer to origins. Where did everything come from? Answer: I believe in God. I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe in theistic evolution. Theistic evolution is evolution. All right? God did not create things, wind it up like an old clock, and then head it off to another galaxy far, far away to leave us on our own to evolve from primordial ooze. There is no indication of that in Scripture. It's a reading in between Genesis 1 and Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. It's called the gap theory. It's the only way that you can get theistic evolution out of that, and it doesn't teach it. It was church leaders who couldn't figure out how to go against current science, and it was a tragedy that happened in the church early on. Others believe in random, unexplained evolution. Others, quite frankly, don't care. I don't know if you've seen that or heard that, but two of those individuals said, my life just functions quite well without believing in anything. Especially the foreign guy. He was a little hard to hear, but he said, as long as I have a good life, I'm okay. Why do I need to complicate that with putting, a supernatural entity in the midst of that? That's really what he's saying, and especially the gal. My life functions just fine, i.e., I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I can just live my life the way I want it to live. And that's the problem, and it's actually the sort of the excuse or the setting aside of the reality of this intellectual awareness that something else exists or someone else exists in that category. Let me give you the second one. The second one is faith or belief is connected to a persuaded conviction. So we're moving a little bit farther down the spectrum or the continuum. This is called intellectual assent. The first one is, I'm aware of something in my world, but I'm not going to really press it. I'm not going to really investigate it. I'm just going to exist in it. That's all I want to do. It's all I care to do. This next level are people that are saying, there does seem to be an order here. There does seem to be universal laws that govern this world that I live in, and even interplanetary movement. There seems to be a system in place here. I've looked at the evidence around me. I've come to a conclusion that something has created this. I don't know what it is. Whether it's a divine person or a divine sort of entity. This is the place where the agnostic finds themselves. I believe that there's something or someone out there. I believe in a higher power, but I'm not sure if we can ever know what or who that is. The guy that said he was an agnostic, you know how he backpedaled really quick? Did you listen to that? Well, there's evidences for God, and then there's evidences against the existence. Well, maybe not evidence, but, there are theories, and they both have a lot of good points to them. That's the guy that says, I live in a world, I'm aware that there is something that has order to it. I've investigated that, but I still haven't come to a conclusion on what that is. Intellectual assent, it's intellectual confusion, by the way. That's what it is. Because they never really come to a formal conclusion. It's just left out there. Intellectual assent, mental assenting to an observable truth, but still confused on what's taking place. Here's the third part of the faith, and this is where we are. This is where we are as followers of Christ who are now stating this creedal form that's before us, which is summarized truth of the Scripture. Third and most important for a follower of Jesus is faith or belief. That is what, church? You see the word there? It's holistic. It's whole. It embraces those truths in so much as they affect every area of my life. It's called a fiduciary faith. You might have known that in finances, a fiduciary company. It means you're putting your trust to them to handle your money. It's in your benefit that they're doing these things. It's a fiduciary faith. We see this in passages in the Scripture, by the way, that says this: love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength, your mind, your body. In the Old Testament, it uses words like kidneys. It's a weird phrasing, but they believed that the seat of certain motives were in your bowels, or your intestines, or your kidneys, your heart. It means I am placing everything about my life in trusting the truth that there is a God, and then subsequently who this God is. That's what this means. So when it says that, Hebrews says that unless you come by faith, unless you believe, you can't please God, because you have to believe that He exists. This is that third point that we're after. You've got to come to the conclusion, starting at the front and going, I'm aware of something. 2, intellectual assent. There are truths that I'm studying that are leading me someplace. 3rd, I've come to a conclusion. I believe in God. Now, some people don't come to that conclusion, though. In fact, a great majority of people don't. Some, they believe that there is the God of science, or the God of government, or the God of self. They will come to a wrong conclusion given where they travel. But this is sort of that faith background with that. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the multitude of argumentative evidence that's out there in regards to the person or entity of God. But I do want to give you a few of these just by way of helping you to have at least a decent conversation in regards to this. The first and the most powerful is the first cause argument. As the great theologian Maria von Trapp sang in The Sound of Music, nothing comes from nothing, nothing ever does. Do you remember that? Yeah, she's a brilliant theologian. It's called nihilism. It means nothing never comes out of nothing. It's one of those contradictory things. So when I sit in a biology class or a cosmology class, and I've got a secular professor who's trying to sway me, and I say, so where did the world come from? Where did the universe come from? Well, Dan, billions and billions of years ago, an explosion happened, and matter dispersed, and that's how things came to be. Excuse me, professor, where did that matter come from? Well, we don't know where that matter came from. Well, if he does give me an answer, I'm going to say, but where did that come from? And where did that come from? And where did that come from? Something had to be the first cause of something, especially with inert matter. Where did that come from? And recently, we have found this out, that we actually don't know what 90%, if not more, of the universe actually is. We just came up with a word for black matter. So when you go out in the evening sky on this bright and wonderful January day, as soon as the nighttime comes in and you look up and you see the stars, you need to see that about I don't know what percentage of it is black. And no one's ever asked, what is that black stuff? Because it is stuff. Black matter, antimatter, black holes. There's so much of the system that we don't even understand yet. But then we have professors, brilliant men who stand up in lecture halls with naive and fumbling young people, and they say with absolute definiteness, definitive, there is no God. Sorry, I don't accept that. You have no proof of that. You have such limited knowledge even in your own world. How can you make that statement? It is a choice. It's not based on evidence. It's based on your personal preference. There is a first cause argument, and it is a very, very, very strong argument. Let me give you the second one if I could. It's the intelligent design argument, or what we call the teleological argument. It says very quickly this. It simply says the world has order and design and purpose. It's a designer, a creator, existent universe. Very quickly, we always use the illustration of a watch. Imagine I'm walking on the beach one day. I don't know what things are, and all of a sudden I find a watch, and I pick it up. I don't know what a watch is. I look at it, and I think, this is interesting. You know, it has a case to it. It has two hands. It seems to move. There's numbers in the midst of it. It has like a band on it. I wonder what this thing is for. But I don't say this thing evolved out of primordial ooze. I say what? Someone must have made this. And the second point that I'm going to make is this. Someone must have made this, and this thing, because it's of how it's designed, it must have what? Purpose. It's designed to do something. Now, I may not know what it's designed to do, but the designer knows. The designer knows how he has created, and he knows what the purpose is for the design. So we can think about that in all aspects of our life, whether personally, physically, mentally, spiritually. We can think about that God is a designer. Telos is the Greek word. It means end. It has an end. It has a purpose for it. It's a great point. Next one is this. This is Romans 1. I just want to let you see some scripture about this. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven, Paul's writing this, against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who do what? They are not ignorant of the truth. Notice that. Paul is not saying they don't know. Paul is saying they do know, but they're doing what with it? I don't want that truth. You're living in that world, church. You're living in a world that does know the truth. They just don't like the truth, and because of that, they're doing what? They're pushing it down, they're redefining it, they're putting it in other packages so that it misleads people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be, church, known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. Why does it say that? Because in John 4 it says that God is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, his divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that, church, purpose, people are without excuse. So when someone dies and stands before God, the excuse of, gosh, I didn't know, God's going to go, sorry, that doesn't work with me. You lived in my world. You could have asked questions. You could have sought. It's not going to work. There's some other things that I want to give to you. First cause, intelligent design. There was an old author that I love. His name is Stephen Charnock. He's writing in the middle of the 1600s. He writes The Existence and Attributes of God. I want to just give you quickly some other ones. It's called the Universal Argument. The Universal Argument says that through archaeology, anthropology, study, we find that the worship of idols and or gods is a global phenomenon. A global phenomenon. In other words, anthropologists, archaeologists have noted that every people group that have been in existence, that they have unearthed, every people group has worshipped something. Sun, moon, trees, rocks, water. Every people group